Live. Hello, everyone. This is Terry Lynn Dupree with Evolving Always Productions. And as you know, I always believe in helping people to evolve mentally, physically, spiritually, and of course, financially. And we have a phenomenal guest. Her name is Sarah Styles. And her company name is Sarahstylesllc, which I love it. And it's streaming across. So you can actually make sure to follow her on Instagram because a lot of the great resources that she'll be talking about, you can actually access from her Instagram account. Now, for people that are listening on the podcast, I will be attaching the Instagram to the information. So you can still follow her from there and still access all the information from there as well. So, first of all, I have to thank you for joining. So tell me a day in a life for you on a regular week. Give us a mouse.
Yeah, it's not
as our own mom teaching your kids as well.
yeah, it is. There's not a typical day for sure, but thank you so much for having me. I've had you on my channel. I love watching your journey on Instagram and social media as well. So thank you so much for having me. A day in the life. I am a mom of 3 children, 15, 3, and 6, so a kindergarten, preschooler, and freshman in high school. This past year has been a wild ride with the pandemic. They were home, remote teaching, so I turned into a remote teacher. Recently, though, the littles, so the 3 and 6-year-old, went to back in person. So they've been in school, which is actually, but the preschooler is only there for 2 hours, so it's not like I get a lot of free time, but a little bit.
Right.
However, he went to school and then the next week he was sick. So then he was home with me all last week because he had COVID symptoms, which were just a cold, but then he was home. So, it's every day is just different. I first and foremost take care of the children, but they are actually really good because I've been doing this, forever. They're really good at being very independent and taking care of themselves to the extent that they can, right? Like a 3-year-old still needs help, but he tries to be really independent. So I usually fit in time here and there to get work in maybe 2-ish hours a day. They're pretty good when I take photos. Last week, my 3-year-old was like, I want to help mommy. And he went and got my shoes and put them on the table for me. So it was a little slower, right? My working hours with them are a little bit slower. And then, taking care of the kids now that they're in school, it's getting them ready, getting them to school, going and picking up the 3-year-old from school, bringing him home, and then going in and getting the 6-year-old from school. And then my high schooler is hybrid. So he's home every other day. But he's special needs. So he has, extra things that he needs. And then social media. I do a live on YouTube every Monday.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, I'm trying to crank out some YouTube videos. That's kind of what I'm working on conquering this year, is learning YouTube better. So I'm really, when I have free time, I'm trying to, reselling is done first and foremost. So I always ship every day, and I take 3 to 4 hours of photos a week, and then I pay a lister. And then anytime on top of that, I'm working on YouTube content and YouTube videos and social media and stuff. So.
Well, I want to give some props to Sarah. Of course, she's telling us, how busy she is, and she is a very busy woman. But for the people that don't actually know Sarah, she's just a phenomenal woman. I'm going to describe her a short way in an equation. It's basically creativity plus math equals Sarah Styles. But let me take it further. Obviously, she is just super intelligent. She is, I consider her a mathematician, but she's also extremely creative. She is a businesswoman. She's been an entrepreneur for like a very long time, which we'll get more into the details of that in a second. She's done so many different things. We'll talk about the different things that she has done. She's always willing to try different things. She has spoken with Posh Fest before. She's constantly a speaker to help other resellers out. And her YouTube channel, if you're not following her, it's a must. It is Sarahstylesllc. It's very easy to remember. But again, I have her Instagram attached, and I'll also have it attached to the podcast. And you'll be able to connect right to her YouTube. She's going to give you a wealth of information because she really gets the hard code facts because she uses data. So it's very important that you have those numbers to actually know which direction that you're going. And Sarah has that down. And she even provides it so you can actually utilize it for your business as well. And that's all available off of her Instagram. And like I said, we'll talk about that more in depth. But she's just a very phenomenal person. I just have a lot of respect for her. And she's just always giving tips short tips, on a YouTube a little bit longer, but either way, you're going to learn on either site that you go on. You will learn from her, and it's always wonderful when you meet somebody and you always like, oh yeah, aha, you have a aha moment, even if they're doing like a 15-second video, whatever. So that's my take. I did want to mention that. And hello to some of the people that are joining. We're going to get a little bit on the personal side and we'll go back to the business. How about that? We'll swing back and forth. That sound good?
It's your show, girl. I am here, whatever you want to do. I appreciate the kind words. Thank you.
All right. So you did a triathlon. Tell us about that.
I did. So it was always something that I wanted to do, but then I had children. And that, like, you don't realize in your 20s that, it won't last forever. And then children come and it is much harder to do things, not only on your body, but then also time-wise.
Yes.
So when I had my second, my sister had done one before. And so she was like, now's the time. It's not going to get any easier. So I spent a year training because I had children. He was 1 when I started training, and then my daughter was 3. And so I don't have a lot of time. I trained probably 90% of the time with my kids. So pushing a stroller, running, pushing a stroller. We have a Burley for the bike. So I spent time, they were always with me. Pulling 50 pounds. I made the triathlon really easy because I was like, oh, this is so much easier when I'm not pulling 50 pounds. And then swimming, obviously I can't, do swimming with them, but I always had them, my parents would hang out and watch when we would swim before, and I'd do some laps and then we'd swim after. So yeah, I did it. It was a huge thing that I've always wanted to do. And everyone's like, oh, you're going to get addicted and keep doing them. And I did one and I was like, nope. I'm good. Like, I'm glad I dropped it off.
You checked it off your list.
Yeah, but I have no desire. I've done some running since then. So I've done like a 5K and a 10K and stuff, but another triathlon, like, I'm good.
For some people that don't really understand what it is, tell it exactly. I know because I've always been into the sports, but I know not everybody that's listening knows. So tell me exactly what you had to do when you were training, everything, like the mileage and everything.
Yeah, I don't remember the miles now. I did a sprint, which is not a full triathlon. So like measurement wise, it's not like a full. I consider it a triathlon because it was hard work. So I say triathlon, but it was a sprint. So the distances were cut, but it's a swim. You swim for a while. It was. 750 maybe, I think, was the 750 meters. And it was in an outdoor lake here in a reservoir in Colorado. Which
gosh, and that was probably cold.
Yes, it was. And I'm used to swimming in a pool. I didn't realize I grew up swimming. I was on swim team. I was like, oh, this is going to be easy. But you can't see the bottom. And it was cold. God. So I had a little freak out, and then you're in the middle of the water. So you just have to keep going. And then you get off, you're done swimming, get into your bike gear, and you do a bike ride. I think it was 12 miles, maybe between 10 and 15, I think. And then you,
oh my gosh, 10 and then I'm tired already.
And then you run a 5K. So that's 3
miles.
Yeah, something miles. And it was for breast cancer. So it was,
oh my gosh, okay.
Yeah, it was Try for the Cure. So it was all women. And it was really, really inspiring because it was women of all ages, and some were cancer survivors that, they just were trying to get through it as well as they could. They were walking, and some, were fighting for their family and doing fundraisers for their family. So it was a really cool event to be a part of, not just from the athletic perspective, but just overall to be a part of.
Well, it should be, because you were doing it for a great cause. And and then, like you said, you got it checked off your list, which, I love that. But you're doing it for a great cause, and you probably met some very interesting people. Like you said, they were survivors, or they're definitely doing their best to survive, like you're saying, as they're in the event as well. But me thinking about, I love swimming, by the way, but I can no longer swim in cold water. I used to be able to, but I think now I would probably shut down if I get in cold water now. I don't know if it's a thing when you get older or not. I mean, you possibly can't relate because I'm quite a bit older than you, but I just can't do it anymore.
Yeah, I shut down. And I'm from Colorado, so we don't have oceans. We don't, like, my swimming has all been in a swimming pool. So, and I grew up swimming. I was on swim team. I was like, the swimming was going to be the easiest part for me. It was the worst. Like, I probably had what you would call a panic attack because it was so cold. And then I was swimming and I couldn't see where I was going, and then there was people everywhere. It was intense. And that's what part of the reason that I'm like, nope, I'm not, I don't ever want to do that again.
And I can relate to you. I did used to swim in water like that a lot, as well as in a pool. But for people that, I don't know, if you're usually swimming in the pool, it would be really hard to be in water that you can't see in. I can totally relate to that. That would be scary. And then it's cold. So just thinking about it. So I know you're one of 6 children. So are you like in the middle, or what are you?
I am right smack dab in the middle. So the 6 kids is step brothers and sisters as well, but my parents were remarried since I was little, so I consider them, my siblings. So I'm right in the middle, including the step siblings as well. I have 2. Now I'm trying to think. 2 that are older, so brother and sister that are older, and then me, and then my youngest brother is my stepbrother, and we're a month apart, so we're essentially the same age growing up. And then a younger brother and a younger stepsister. So yeah, right smack. I'm very much a middle child.
Oh, but were y'all competitive, or y'all just have fun together? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I mean, probably a little bit of both. I always shared a room. I always had someone to play with, but then I always had someone to fight with as well. And because we were step siblings, we were all very close in age. It was 6 of us in the span of, let's see, my oldest brother was born in 82, and then my youngest sister was born in 87. So he was born in 80. So in 7 years, there were 6 of us in 7 years. So we were all like the same age together, all teenagers together. So it was chaos. I can only imagine now as I'm a mom. Like my poor mother. I can't imagine. But it was nice. We always had someone to play with. And one time, one day I'd be mad at my brother and played with my sister. And then the next day, my brother would be my best friend and I'd hate my sister and everything. So yeah, I mean, it was nice. We're all still pretty close. So I feel like that's says something about it. We all live, within a couple of miles of each other now, except for the 2 that moved out of the state. But we, regularly Zoom with them and stuff too. So
I think that's beautiful. But I can imagine y'all were something when y'all became teenagers, because you know how it is when you become a teenager.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can't. And my littlest brother, we always gave him a hard time because we were like, oh, you're my mom's favorite. You get away with everything. And now as a mom, I'm like, oh, yeah. By the time my littlest brother was like a teenager, my mom was just like, I'm done. Right. And my parents are like, I'm done. Like, I don't have the energy to parent anymore. Right. Everyone else survived. We don't need to have as many rules. It's not a big deal.
So let me ask you something. Did y'all used to play pranks on each other?
Oh, yeah.
What's a really good prank that you remember? Either that you did or that was done to you?
It's a little embarrassing.
Okay, if you don't want to share it,
No,
I always want people comfortable.
Yeah, no, it just I mean, we did a bunch of like stuff here and there, but I'm trying to think. Oh, so we would have you heard of a snipe hunt?
Oh, what now?
Yeah, a snipe hunt. And so now I'm going to ruin it. If you've never been on a snipe hunt, don't do it. A snipe is a made-up fictional character.
Okay.
We told my little brother and sister that, it was real, and we took them out into the middle of, we were on vacation in Utah, and we took them out to a field, and we're like, oh, okay, go find a snipe, and you guys can come home when it's done. And so they were out there forever. I mean, as kids, it felt like hours, right? I don't remember how long it was, but they were out there looking for a snipe, and then we're so sad when they couldn't find one. And they're like, how did you not find one? This is what it looks like. It's not.
That's actually a really good one.
I feel bad now, but we learned it from my dad and my uncle did it to each other, and they were telling us the story. We're like, oh, cool. Like, let's do this to my poor little brother.
That's actually a really good one. I love that one because I could just see them out there so frustrated because they can't find it. And I'm wondering what mental picture they had of what it was supposed to look like. That's just too funny. That is too funny. Now, I know you said that you graduated from high school and beauty school at the same month. So basically, when did you start your beauty? I guess you started that same year, or how long were you in beauty school? I guess is what I should ask.
Yeah, I started my junior year because I went part-time. So I went to school in the morning and then went to beauty school in the afternoon. I was by my junior year to the place where I could have graduated early. But I was like doing hair, You can't tell, but my hair, I always liked doing hair. I did my friend's hair, and I was like, hey, if the school's going to pay for it, I might as well stay in school, and I can do my credits for school, high school in the morning, and then go in the afternoon. And then by my senior year, I was completely done by the second half. So the second half of my senior year, I was in beauty school all day. So I didn't actually go into the high school at all. I was just in beauty school. So then I graduated high school and then also took my boards that same month.
Yeah, so pretty much as soon as you graduated, you went in and started working, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming.
I didn't go to. I went to college when I was in my mid-20s. So I started to work. Everyone like went off to college and did the whole college thing, and I was on my own working and just doing hair.
But see, the neat thing about it, well, I'm assuming this. You're probably going to correct me if I'm not correct about this, but I'm assuming by you doing that, you didn't have any college loans. Is that correct or incorrect?
Yes, I didn't have any loans for beauty school, but then I went to college when I was 25 and I was living on my own. And I was a bit too old and stubborn to live with my parents, right? It's not like they were always like, you can live with us while you go to school if you need to. But by 25, I'd lived on my own for 7 years. I was like, I'm not,
of course,
live back home. And I had been living on my own for so long, right? So I have student loans from college, but not in addition to beauty school, right? So it kind of.
I was thinking you wouldn't have any because I was like, she was up there hustling. When I say this is a working woman, but anyway, we'll get more into detail on that. So I know you went back to college. So did you also get your bachelor's or, well, I know you got your bachelor's. What was I getting ready to ask? Did you get your master's is what I was getting ready to ask. I can't remember.
Yeah, I had my bachelor's. I started my master's when the job that I was at paid for your master's at the time.
Cool.
And I wasn't working that much. It was a nice thing about, I know we've talked about corporate America a little bit. It was one of the nice things about corporate America. Certain jobs, you get paid salary and there's like weeks out of the month that you don't have really anything to do or like the afternoon at this job. So I was like, cool, the company's going to pay for it. I can totally do schoolwork at work. So I did start my master's. I should know this. I got 2 or 3 courses in. I was only doing 1 or 2 courses a semester. And I think I did 2 semesters. And then I was like, oh, I met my husband. We're going to have a family. And it just kind of fell off. I wasn't overly ambitious to get it, but it was more like, well, the company's paying for it. I might as well. But I have no desire to go back and get it now. I'm like done with like that part of life. I have
well, with the way you're working your business, that's actually totally understandable. So the interesting thing is you got married in a courthouse, right? Tell us a little bit about that story.
Yeah. So I'm not a very romantic person. My husband had been married first. So I was like, cool, you have had the wedding. I have no desire to have one. And so we had been engaged. And by that, I mean, like, we decided we were going to get married. Like there wasn't like a big proposal. I picked out my own ring. Like I don't have nothing against people who do. It's just not me. Like it's not. So it was getting towards the end. He had a son, right? So I was going to be a step parent. And we wanted to make sure that he was there. So he was 6 at the time, him being the stepson, was 6 at the time. So ultimately I was like, I don't care when we do it. I just want, him to be able to be there. And one weekend we were like, oh, it's going to be Thanksgiving break. He's with us. He's going to be here all week. Like, what a great time to do it. So my parents were out of town and I called my mom and I was like, do you know where my birth certificate is? Mom was like, yeah, it's in the safe in my house. You can go get it. Like, why do you need it? And I was like, oh, we're just going to go get married tomorrow. And my mom was like, what? But we're not there. We're not.
She was probably more like, what?
Yeah. She knew that we weren't going to have a wedding, but I think she thought maybe like it would have been like a date was planned and I don't know. But so we just randomly went. I think it was a Tuesday. Me and my husband always forget our anniversary too. It was the week of Thanksgiving. I think it was a Tuesday and we just woke up and went. I don't remember what I was wearing. I don't remember. I don't think we even have a picture of it. But I was like, it's before the end of the year. We want to make sure to get that tax break in. We have my son. Like, it's a good time to do it.
No, but I can see that of you because you're analytical. You're, logical. So when I read that, I was like, yeah, I could see that. I like totally. It didn't even surprise me, but I thought I would talk about it. So one thing that you really advocated for, obviously, was for breastfeeding, and you actually was a breastfeeding counselor. So talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I have 3 kids. My oldest is my stepson. And then I birthed my 2 youngest ones. So when I had my first one, I had always, my mom breastfed, and I'm in Colorado, so we're very like natural and crunchy here. Like it just never fazed me. Like I was just going to nurse. But with my youngest, or my first, I had a really hard time with it. I was not going to give up, regardless of how many people told me but so I had a really hard time with it. And so after I nursed her until I got pregnant with my second one, around 18, 20 months, something like that. And I wanted to help people. Kind of in my nature, and why I'm teaching on YouTube to help people. And I went through a course through Breastfeeding USA. So it was peer-to-peer support, but you had to pass their course. And it was like, I don't know, 80 hours worth of coursework, all online, which was nice. So I could do it, online in between the kids. And then by the time I had my second, I had passed the course, and then I was a breastfeeding counselor, and I helped other moms, learn to nurse, or if they had issues, and would do like meetup, because a lot of nursing and breastfeeding and being successful is just having support, having to connect with. And so we did, like weekly meetups, and just answer questions and stuff like that. Yes. So
I think when I read that, I actually was very impressed, because it's so important that a child is breastfed. There's so many, and you could probably go ahead and share to people all the reasons that you should do it, because I'm sure did you want to mention that, or?
Yeah, it gets it is very important. It gets very tricky because there's people who can't, whether they physically can't or the society doesn't allow them to, because they don't have the support, they don't have the resources.
That's true.
Yeah, so it gets really hard to say why it's so important without shaming people who aren't able to or choose not to. But do choose to. And my big thing was, if you want to be able to breastfeed, that you should be able to. And in our society, that's not always the case. You have to have the resources and have the time. If you struggle with it, you have to be able to see IBCLC or have these support groups, and that's not accessible to everyone. And that's really why I wanted to do it, is if that family decided that it was important to them, that they were able to do it, not for any other reason than they just didn't want to, right? But it is very important. It gives antibodies. It is so extremally fascinating. Like the milk changes with the child, and it's different for every child. And like if they get sick, then the milk looks different and gives them antibacterials to make them better, or antibodies to make them better.
I know what you mean. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and as they get older, your milk gets fattier and denser because they're getting, bigger, and they need different kind of milk.
And they need it. Yeah.
Yeah, so it is really interesting. And then it's, the bonding for the mom and the baby and all of that stuff as well.
And see, I'm glad you're sharing that. And you're totally right. We're definitely not shaming people, because there are people that I wasn't able to, unfortunately, but I wanted to, but, I wasn't able to, but I definitely wanted to. But like you said, there's times that different reasons, different things happen. So I appreciate the way you put that. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't want to shame anybody either, because that's not what it's about. But if you can, by all means, and then reach out to support groups. I totally get it, because I think in the long run, it is worth it if you can possibly do it. So yeah, I just think it's a great thing. What's this thing about hating bananas? That's probably not. That's probably not a normal. That's probably a natural thing. But I'm just a banana crazy person. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, it's the texture. I like most foods. I don't like seafood either. But I'm in Colorado. I don't mind seafood if you go to somewhere where it's good, but we don't have good seafood in Colorado, right? Like we're a land lake city, so fresh is even still a couple of days old, right? But that wasn't the question. Bananas. I don't like the texture. I don't mind the flavor. So I will eat banana bread. I will eat banana pancakes. I will eat banana ice cream, like all of it. But
that makes total sense. It's a texture thing for you.
Like I don't think I've had one since a child. And now it's probably is just so mental that I couldn't even eat one if I
Yeah,
tried.
because it's not the flavor at all. Gotcha. It's just like you said, the texture. That makes so much sense actually. And I could actually see that for why some people wouldn't be really big on that. Definitely. Could see that. Um Now your favorite book was Pillars of the Earth. So
Mm-hmm.
what was it about that book that really resonated to you?
I don't know. I read it in high school and I've read it probably 3 or 4 times since. I'm really fascinated with history. If I could have gotten a degree in anything that I wanted to, that would have given me a job after, right? Like, imagine this. I was analytical and logical with the degree that I got, but I wanted a job, right? And so I was like, oh, they need math teachers or people need math degrees. But if I could have gotten a degree, and it wouldn't have mattered if I could have gotten a job or not, it would have been in like history, or like religion, like history and religion and how the world works and stuff. But I didn't, because I wanted to have a job, and it's hard to get a job with that kind of degree. But I love reading books, like historical books, historical fiction books. I've been watching a lot of like the BBC, like the Queen and the Queen Victoria, and just
Oh yes.
like all of the historical
I
fiction.
love it.
So fascinating to me. And that's what Ken Follett's writes. But Pillars of the Earth was one of the first that I read. So I think that's probably why it resonated with me as being a favorite, because it's one of the first historical fictions that I read. And it's just so, I mean, I could just go, even multiple times, I could just read through it so quickly. It's such a good book.
Now, I don't know why I'm surprised about this, but I was surprised about this response you gave me. So your favorite movie is Love and Basketball. So what was it about that movie
It
that made it
is.
your favorite? I love the movie, just so we're clear. It is a phenomenal movie, but for me, I would have never been like, okay, Sarah Styles likes this movie, but go ahead, talk to me about it.
I mean, I have a lot of favorite movies, but you asked that and I was like in the middle of something, and that's the first thing that came up. It is the one movie, like I could probably recite all of it. Anytime one of those songs come on, I automatically like think of like the part in this scene. I first watched it when I was probably late middle school or early high school, probably around when it came out, or when I first saw it. And I don't know why. It's just, I have no idea. And what's funny is I'm not a romantic at all. I mean, you heard my wedding story.
I know. That's why I was like, because I get that about you.
I love watching romantic movies and videos. And my husband's like, this is so weird because you are not a romantic. I'm like, well, it's like when you're watching something, it's like not reality, right? Like I obviously know that's not how real life works.
Right.
And so it's like very fictional to me to watch it, and like the cheesier the better. But I don't have a reason so much. I think just in high school, it's a movie that I watched over and over and over again.
It is actually, for people who have not seen it, Love and Basketball, it is actually a good movie. So I was just surprised because, like I said, when I saw you say you was married in the courthouse, not surprised. I was like, that makes sense for her. That makes sense. And I was like, I'm gonna have to ask her about that one. But
and I can't think of her name. But
Sanaya Latham, I think. Is that who you're talking about? Yeah.
I love her, and I think that was one of
love her too.
Not the first time that I saw her. And Omar Epps too. Like, hello.
Well, Melissa, you need to check it out. Yeah, I love both of them. And Omar Epps is special to me because back when me and my husband were dating, people will always think that he looked like Omar Epps.
Well, congratulations.
But now they think he looks like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot his name. But it's the guy that does this show where he says you can have $1,000 or you can see what's in that box. What's his name? Do y'all know who I'm talking about? Anybody help me out in the comments?
$1,000.
Like he'll give the contestant a choice. He'll say you can have like this $1,000 or you can see what's in this box. Help me out, someone, because I can't think of his name right this second.
Anyway, I don't know.
No, don't worry about it because I thought
Wayne Brady.
Wayne Brady, thank you, Wayne Brady.
Whose line is it? I haven't seen that one. If you said whose line is it, anyways, I could.
Yeah, I couldn't remember the title because I don't watch it. I just know because people be like, "You're that guy from who's whatever," and they'll be like Wayne Brady. Yeah, Wayne. So he gets that all the time now, but back in the day when we were dating, he would always get the Omar Epps all the time. So it was kind of funny. Yeah, he is. He doesn't change much either. But yeah, both of them were great actors. So yeah, definitely. Y'all get a chance. Y'all haven't seen that movie, check it out. All right, so I want to talk more now on the like I said, you're a serial entrepreneur. I mean, you're just phenomenal. So let's talk about your road to entrepreneurship. Kind of like start us off to what really got you started, then we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah. Someone's asking the name of the book, so I'm going to say that really quick, and then we'll get into.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, no worries. It's Pillars of the Earth. Ken Follett, Follet, I think maybe. But Pillars of the Earth is the name of the book. I am an entrepreneur from the beginning. And my husband's always like, our daughter is so much like you, because she's like, I'm going to do this business and I'm going to do that business. And as a child, I was like that, like, we're going to do a lemonade stand, or I'm going to make these clothes and sell them to my friends, or I'm going to, so very much from the beginning, I've always tried to hustle in some perspective. And I've also had multiple jobs at a time. Like, I've always just been really busy. I went, like, in high school, I did sports. I had at least two jobs at a time usually, because we were one of 6 kids. And so we got like what we absolutely needed. But as a teenager, I was like, I want a car, I want a cell phone, I want like all of these things. So I was always very much a hustler in that perspective. Went to beauty school in high school. But I started, as far as entrepreneur stuff, I started making my own clothes in high school, because we didn't have a lot of extras. And I was like, I would see stuff that, people were wearing or what was fashionable. And I'd be like, okay, I can totally make that cute skirt myself. And so I would make it. And then I started having people be like, oh, that's cute, can you make me one? And so in high school, or my early 20s, that range, I started selling the things that I was making just to people that I knew. But then I was a hairdresser too. So it was very much like in that realm of like fashion and stuff. And so I started, putting myself at boutiques and selling. This was before, I think eBay had just started, but it was like auctions, right? So it wasn't e-commerce. You couldn't sell things like you could now. Maybe Etsy started, I don't know, 10 years later. But so I was, making things and selling them in local boutiques in Denver, doing fashion shows, because I was a hairdresser. So I was like really into that community. And started that way. So probably, I've been an entrepreneur. It was always a side hustle, because it's really hard, especially back then. There was like only 3 stores in Denver I could find that would even sell my stuff, right? And then it was like you had to hope someone randomly walked in and it fit them, and it, so you're only selling a couple of pieces. It's not like this e-commerce world,
right?
You can sell to so many people now and have social media to market it, right? Like, I was handing flyers out. And I had a MySpace. I marketed on MySpace, but if any of y'all know MySpace, like, that was not what social.
Yeah, that kind of disappeared fast, didn't it? But I love, and I know you don't have time to do that now, but you are an extremely creative person. That's why I definitely mentioned that. But obviously the timing, because I know it takes a little while to obviously do things like that. So how long would it take you to do like a piece, possibly? You don't mind sharing?
Yeah. It would usually be a couple hours, depending on what I was doing and how intricate it would be. You're talking 2 to 4 hours for a piece.
Yeah, because the thing is, what you having kids running around and you trying to do it would be so hard now. Even though we know Etsy, or even I think Amazon, of course, now does stuff like that. You can sell it. It would be definitely a market for it, truly. And I'm sure you came up with some amazing pieces. Do you happen to have any pictures of it, of items that you did by chance?
Yeah, because it was so long ago, I had pictures. I had to find like physical pictures of them, and a couple of like newspaper articles from fashion shows that I did. And I took pictures of them and put them there on my Instagram wall. And most recently, when I only had my first, I still was doing upcycle. I was doing upcycle. I would take stuff from the thrift store and make it nursing friendly, because I found it was really hard to find breastfeeding clothes that were cute and not really expensive. And then I was making baby wearing jackets. So, I'm in Colorado and I wore my kids in a carrier, but it would get cold and your jacket wouldn't fit. So I was making baby wearing jackets and then also nursing friendly stuff and selling it on Etsy when I had my first. So that was now, 6 years ago. And then once I had my second, I was like, I can't do this. This is
because you're too busy. And then of course with when Rona came in the picture, I'm just gonna call her Rona. I get that from Rona actually, but Rona came in the picture and that made it even more complicated. You got to kind of really manage your time, which Talk to us about that, because you seem to manage your time very well, and you even take care of yourself, because I know you work out as well. I see that. So talk to us about that.
Working out is 100% something that I do for my mental health. If I don't work out, I'm not pleasant to be around. And I start to like spiral into like anxiety and just not pleasant. So I do it for, I mean, I do like to be healthy. I like to be fit, but it's definitely for my mental health. And so I've definitely gotten to the habit. Like today I didn't want to work out and I was like, okay, I'm going to get on for 10 minutes. And if I'm still not into it, I will stop. Well, usually by 10 minutes, the endorphins hit. And then I'm like, cool, I'm going to run 6 miles. Like I'm all about it. So that is, I mean, that's one thing that I try and get in every single day. It's like the first thing that I do, where I make sure to have a plan into my day. And I take 1 to 2 days off, but we still walk on those days as well, because you have to give yourself a break.
And I want to say something about what Sarah said. Because I tell people that all the time. I mean, granted, obviously you're going to work out for your physical health. We know that. But working out is so important for your mental health. So important. So what she just said, it's great advice. So definitely heed to that. And go ahead, talk about the rest of how you schedule things.
I have it right here. So I have a list of like to-dos. This is, I have Post-it notes everywhere. If you guys follow me on Instagram, I have like Post-it notes everywhere. Because if I have an idea, I write it down. But I have a list of things that I'd like to get done for the week. And because I have children, I can't, that are home with me and need me, specifically my 6 and 3-year-olds. When I have time, I go to the list and then I'm like, okay, this is what needs to get done. I have priorities. Reselling right now, that's my main work priority. And so I ship every single day. Like that gets done. And then when I have time for the week, I have a lister. So full disclosure, when people are like, oh, you're a superwoman, you do it all. I don't do it all. I pay a lister to do some stuff for me because I don't have time to do it all. But I get her enough items. So I make sure to have enough photos. I'm listing 70 items a week. So that's my second priority for my business, is making sure to get the photos taken. And I do it when I have time. My kids will be playing nicely. And so I come in, I have an office on our main floor so that I can hear them. And I come in and kind of fit it in where I can. And then from there, I have my nice to do's. Right now it's YouTube. I'm trying to put a lot of effort into there. So when I do have free time, I'm doing that. As an entrepreneur, my brain is always on it, though. I think you probably can relate. Most people here can relate.
And I'm going to cut you off for just a second. Again, I just want to repeat it. If you're not subscribing to her YouTube, if you're not checking out her content, you're really missing out, because she does give so much useful information. So I just want to throw that in there again. And I'm going to get a little bit off topic, but then we're going to go back to analytics in a second, okay? But your star tattoos, talk to us about that.
You can see these. There's 5.
Yes.
So when I was 16, one of our projects at school, one of my favorite teachers had us make like a bucket list. And so you can imagine the things on my bucket list when I was 16, although a triathlon was on there. And so one of the star tattoos is a triathlon. So I have this bucket list of 50 things I want to do before I die. I made when I was 16. And one of the things on there, because, I was 16, I was like, oh, tattoos are cool. Before I had any. And so one of it was, every time that I do something on my bucket list, I get a star tattoo. And so I still do it. The bucket list, I kind of update every 10 years-ish, because you can imagine my goals when I'm, 36 are not the same when I was 16.
Definitely. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, one of them was like date a fireman. And I was like, well, I'm married now. And my husband's like, it's on your bucket list. If you want to go on a date with a fireman, I'll fully support it. I was like, no, it's just like a 16-year-old, a fireman, right? But a lot of them are like, become a hairdresser and travel to this place and do a triathlon and stuff like that. So for everyone. And so those were 5. I have like one really big star on my ankle, a couple on my back, so they're all one on my ear. Can you see?
So you spit it all out. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, can I ask you something? Because this, I think, is interesting. What made you at 16 come up with that list?
It was a project for school.
Makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
That's one thing I meant to ask you, because I was like at that age, I was like, I don't even think I was thinking about that. I mean, now the older I get, I always think about that and tweaking it and stuff like that. But I was like, yeah, it just came up really early with that. Let's talk about your analytics and then how it can actually be helpful to the audience and to whoever's listening.
Let's do it.
So go ahead and shoot. I mean, how did you really get started utilizing your analytics? Kind of talk us through that.
Yeah. So I went to college for math. I have a degree in mathematics. I went to be a high school math teacher because I wanted to help people. I wanted to help specifically like inner city high school kids, which who wants to do that? Wild. I love teenagers though. They're just wild. And so I went to school to be a high school math teacher. Mm-hmm. When I graduated from high school, the economy was not great and everyone was losing jobs. And so I was, going up for jobs with people, teachers who had been working for 30 years. So I couldn't get a job as teaching. I went into corporate America and did statistical modeling and forecasting. So I worked for a utility. So I forecasted our energy and demand so we would know how much we were going to use next year, and we could budget and plan and do operations and stuff. So, looking at numbers and large data sets to forecast our future numbers. So I did that until I had my daughter, and then I decided to stay home with her. And then I got into, I started doing upcycle again. And then my son came, stopped the upcycle and got into Poshmark because I was like, I can just sell these things from the thrift store straight. Like I don't have to spend 2 hours on them. I can just cut that out and go straight to reselling, because I grew up thrifting for the upcycle and everything too. And I enjoyed it. But as you guys are probably aware, Poshmark does not have any kind of analytics. And my background is in math.
Really?
Right. And so I was like, well, how much am I even making? What is working for me? So I kind of tracked my own stuff. And I went to a Posh and Sip, and, people were like, well, how do you decide what to buy? And how, we're just having conversations. And I was like, well, I just look at my numbers. And they're like, well, but how? And I was like, in a spreadsheet, and it hit me that most people don't know how to use spreadsheets to the extent that I do. Right. And, I had a couple of people that were like, I would buy that from you. And I was like, oh,
so the dashboard was born, right? The dashboard was born. I love it.
Yeah. So then I started the first one, and then they came out with the inventory part. I started the second one, and then I started selling on other platforms. And I was like, well, there's nowhere for me to look at all of these platforms together. Like eBay has really good analytics, but it's specific to eBay, right? Like I want to look at the whole picture. And so then I came up with a third one to kind of look at that.
Well, it's amazing. And then you have a lot of different things to help people with their business, if they're in the e-commerce business, especially. So when you go to Sarah's Instagram, and she has all the links there available for you. So what do you recommend to people, someone that's considering getting into the e-commerce or reselling business? What would you tell them?
That's a good question. I would say just try it out. The nice thing about e-commerce is that you can start with no money up front or very little. Thrifting is very inexpensive, or start selling stuff from your house. We all have a bunch of stuff that we don't need. And that will get you an idea of how to list, what SEO, learn all of that stuff, especially when you're not putting a lot of money in up front. And then, start to evolve little by little. I am a big proponent of mastering one thing before you move on to another thing. So find a platform that you think works best for you. For me, it was Poshmark because it is much easier. And you don't get eBay. If you do something wrong, you get dinged, and that will stay with you, right? That can impact your future sales for eBay. Poshmark, oops, I lost something. It's not the end of the world. Master one platform, master one, women's clothing, whatever. Learn your SEO, master all of these different things, and then just grow little by little. I jumped in full force. That's very much how I am. Nothing against other YouTubers, but I didn't a lot of people are I binged stuff for a year and then I was ready to go. And I was like, cool, I just jumped in and then learned as I went. So I think it kind of just depends on your personality of what
I like what you do though, because I think sometimes people they can drag on and possibly not even meet the goals because they're trying to wait for this perfection. They're trying to wait to know more about this and wait to know more about that. And so you're definitely being a true entrepreneur. You're like, okay, I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna figure this out as I go along, even if it's trial and error. But you're right, eBay is a little bit more touchy on the error, so to speak. So I love the advice that you gave about getting really good with like one platform. So even if they wanted to start on eBay first, which is fine, they need to really get eBay and really understand it and do well in it, definitely. And the other thing I want to talk about with Sarah, which is why you definitely need to be following her on YouTube and her Instagram. She talks about a lot of things about eBay. She shows you how to do a lot of things on eBay. So if you are, just starting out on eBay and you're like a little lost, you could be found in her Instagram and her YouTube by looking at her content, because she does really help you out. She does it very easily, so you can actually see it. And then, like I said, she has so much information and things that you can get from her. And you used to do webinars. You're still doing webinars. Talk to me a little bit about that. I just meant to mention that about the webinars.
What do you mean the webinars?
You have webinars, or you were doing webinars, or am I?
Well, I mean,
sorry.
I have a course, and then I'm doing a beta test right now to support. I mean, I went to school to be a teacher, so like the teacher in me, and that's really what my social media is like. I want to help people do this, and so I'm beta test. I don't have a lot of time, and I don't have kid-free time, right? That's my issue. But I am beta testing like a Zoom accountability webinar type of thing with some people right now to work on that, to be able to give that personal support and ask the questions, because I do have courses, obviously my YouTube channel and then the dashboards, but it's something maybe a little bit more personal. The hard part with diving too deep into that, or doing like consults and stuff, is I don't have a lot of kid-free time. Most of what I'm doing is with children. And if I'm going to be doing, a lot of that, but I am beta testing. I'm doing it 1 hour a week. A couple of people in the chat, at least one for sure, is doing the beta test with me. So thank you, to see how that works and if it's manageable, to kind of give a little bit more of a personal touch and help, figure out your goals and use your number. I mean, I'm all about using your numbers, obviously. Right. And you don't have to, wherever you are. We have people in the beta test in my dashboard as well that are like, I want to sell 20 things this month. And then we have people who are like, I want this to be my full-time living. The nice thing about your numbers is those can guide
your numbers.
Yeah, they can guide you wherever they take you. So it's not, hey, I found this Bolo brand, go out and also find this Bolo brand. No, like, look at what you have available to you. Look at your numbers, look at your skill set, and work upon those to get to where you want to go.
Yeah, so I love that. So you're doing that in beta. That's perfect. And so you're just trying to test it out and see, like, from a time perspective, if it's really going to be helpful. So see, that's really good. So that'll be another reason to make sure that you follow Sarah, because she may decide to do this full force, and I would highly recommend it, because she definitely does present material in a very understandable way, and which you'll find out when you check out her YouTube and everything. So where do you see yourself in 5 years? Don't you love that question? Not really, but where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Happy. How's that? I see myself happy. I mean, that's hard. I have like high level business goals, but if you can't tell by my background and everything that we've been talking about, I'm very much a go with the flow type. I've had like 7 careers to now, because things change, right? Like a pandemic hit, and now I'm a homeschooling teacher. I actually started staying home with my daughter because I had so much troubles with, going back to the breastfeeding. I would get chronic breast infections, and I literally, like, if it was like having the flu. And so I just physically could not work. And it was either, breastfeeding or going back to work. And I was like, well, let's, try this for a bit and see how it is.
That's right.
At home. And then it just shifted, right? Like, I never wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. I love my kids dearly, but that was never my plan. I was like, I'm going to go back to work. I'm going to be back in work. And life happens and things change. So I can't say indefinitely, like, I think you have to have some flexibility in where you're going. But I think, I am enjoying the entrepreneur. My kids, and our lifestyle are very important to me. And by lifestyle, I mean, our kids don't have to be, when it was just my oldest, because we had him every other week and it was just one, staying home wasn't really, didn't make sense. But he would go to childcare at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then we would pick him up. It would be dark when he would go to school and dark when we would pick him up. We'd have an hour with him to do homework, and then it was bedtime. So I think me and my husband both enjoy the lifestyle of me being home, so that, I can take them to karate. I can pick them up from school. I can, so hopefully something that lends a hand to that. What I'm doing now, I think definitely would work, but I don't know what's going to happen.
I can see some successful webinars from you in the near future, but I'm going to ask you another question now. It's going to be kind of similar, but different. So if money wasn't a factor, what would you do in life? If money wasn't a factor, didn't need money, money wasn't of importance.
Yeah. I would help children. I would, I don't know that I would teach, because teaching is very stressful from all of the regulations that you have. That was one of the frustrating parts, is like, I wanted to be able to help, but you have administrators telling you to do this, and then you have parents coming in and telling you to do one thing. And then, so it was very hard to actually get across. I mean, it's a very, very hard, and I am very, thankful for all the teachers that go through and do that. But I think I would probably do something in that aspect. And that's where I was going to say too, that I could see getting involved once the kids are in school full time, getting involved. They go to a charter school, so it's ran by parents.
Right.
And so I could see myself, I'm already on one of the committees, but I could see myself maybe helping out more in the school, because teachers, they have, it's like 7 jobs and they don't have time for all of it. And so being able to support the school.
I can see you doing that too. And I really could. And we need people like you helping out kids, because the reality is, in the United States, we're very behind from an educational speaking. So it would be nice to have people like you, more people like you. So, but yeah, thank you for sharing that. So what's one thing that we'll say before Rona, we know how Rona is, but before Corona, what was the fun stuff that your family really loved doing before Corona decided to, rear her ugly head?
Yeah. I mean, what's actually nice is we live in Colorado, and it's very outdoorsy. And so
right.
In the beginning of Rona, like, we didn't know what you could do, right? Like, you couldn't do anything, you couldn't go outside. And now that, like, it's evolved a little bit, we know it's a little bit safer to be outside. It's actually been nice, because those are things that we like to hike, we like to bike, we like to do things outside together as a family. We go for walks, go to the park. So a lot of that towards the end, now that we know it's okay to be outside and our numbers have been lowered, or have pretty good positivity rate in Colorado right now, we're able to still do that. And that's probably, always been hanging out with the family and doing active outdoor type stuff.
And that's such a beautiful area. So I can totally see that. So that's a blessing. It is gorgeous there. I think about Colorado all the time. I'm like, we might end up trying to move there. I don't know. So is there anything you would like for the people that are listening, the people that are here right now, and the people that are listening in the future, that you would like to share that could really benefit them for their business? Feel free to let us know. So I want them to have access to whatever you want to share.
Yeah. I mean, you can follow me on all my social media, Sarahstylesllc. I obviously am a proponent of looking at your numbers. And I'm trying to, I went to school to be a high school math teacher, and our education system is completely failing our children. And so most kids would come, in 9th grade and would have like a 3rd grade math level. So I am really trying to, and not saying that my followers have a 3rd grade math level, but trying to, I've been trained in ways to make it understandable. And that's really what my channel, my Instagram, and my purpose, I guess, for all of my social media is. Once you know your numbers, and you don't have to geek out as much as I do, but knowing how much you actually sell and how to get to where you want to go by following your numbers, it is a strategy that will work for anyone. You don't have to have access to all the BOLO brands. You don't have to have access to, all of these things that other YouTubers tell you. You can legitimately do reselling. I'm not a great reseller. to be honest. I just did a video, so watch my YouTube channel. It'll come out in a couple of weeks. I don't know all the Bolo brands. I am a terrible lister because I pay someone else to do it. But you can make money if you simply just have strategies and make strategic decisions and spend your money and time wisely. And I think the only way that you can really do that is by knowing your numbers and knowing how to spend your time.
I totally agree. I totally agree. So I already asked you. I was going to ask you something. Yeah, the other thing I wanted to mention that Sarah does, and this is how she's able to like give such great information. She kind of, what's the best way to do it? I guess I'll say experiments. She does experiments, and that's how she finds out certain things. So, yeah, I agree. To one of the people that was just talking about Bolo brands, she does experiments. So she's not just like throwing stuff out to you for you to like pay attention to her. She's like actually doing experiments. She's using herself, and then she has people also that, you know, they work with her as well, but she gets this information and that's how she's able to share. And by you actually reviewing her content, like I said, on Instagram and on YouTube, it's going to actually really give you an edge, and you can actually, you know, become more successful in a more rapid time if you're paying attention to the information that she's actually giving. So anybody have any last questions before we wrap this up? And any last words you want to say? First of all, I enjoyed you being up here. You're just phenomenal. So I really appreciate you.
You're so kind. Thank you. I was going to say something too now, and now I don't remember. I don't know. But I appreciate you having me and everyone that joined. I know most of the people, but all the new people to me as well. Thank you guys so much for joining. It completely blows my mind that people watch me on YouTube. Like it just is, I'm not a YouTuber. I'm not a social media personally. And it's kind of, it probably seems odd if you know me professionally because I'm on social media, but personally I'm not. So I don't watch YouTube. I don't, I mean, I watch other, like I watch you now and I support people that I know, but just in general. And so it just blows my mind that I have 4,000 people who want to listen to me ramble on about math and data. And I appreciate all of you. And I'm not doing it for myself. I get enjoyment out of it. I went to school to be a teacher, but I really do want to help other people. And I think you can really get to where you want to go if you use your analytics and use your data to get you there. And I don't want to do it in an abstract way. Like, hey, look at your sell-through rate. Like I show you how to calculate your sell-through rate. I give you tools to do it for you if you don't want to do the analytics. In eBay, I just posted a video today. Here's how you actually go step by step to pull up a listing report, right? Like some of the social media that I watch is like, okay, do this thing. And I'm like, but like how? Like, I'm so new, you're telling me about how to do this thing on eBay. Like, how do you actually do that, right? How do you actually look at your sell-through rate and average sale price? So I dig a little bit deeper because I want everyone to be able to have, it's kind of like the breastfeeding thing. Like if you want to be able to be successful, I want to be able to help you get there. You shouldn't not be able to do it because you're scared of math. I want you to be able to understand the math so that you can make it.
And I want to tell y'all something about Sarah, which is why I just really appreciate her in the community. She had did a video, and I hate that I don't remember the video now. It was on Instagram, and she was showing you how to do something, but it was really fast. So I had to watch the video several times, which is okay because that doesn't really matter. It was the fact that she took time to even do a video to help out. So I don't know why I said this, but I was like, oh, this is really great information. I had to go back a couple of times, and I was just meaning because it was that valuable. But I think Sarah really took it to heart because I promise you the next video she did, she was like, she's
I did.
So I want to thank you, but you really didn't have to, but I just thought that was like the sweetest thing. So I had to share that because I just thought that was so sweet. She really does care. So definitely make sure you subscribe to her channel. I really appreciate y'all coming out. I really do. And like I said, she definitely is there to help you. She doesn't mind helping people. Thanks everybody for coming out tonight. I appreciate you.
Guys.
Bye.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you.